We are in week 3 of our series, No Regrets, and I have been so appreciative of Buck's vulnerability the last couple of weeks. Last week he shared that he did this experiment with his kids with these chips. And if you were here, you heard about the result, the pain that probably happened the day of and also the day after. And I discovered, I can really relate to that. When moving from Tennessee to Texas, I thought I understood what queso was until I landed here. My first meal here ever. Like we moved, that night I had torchies. And I didn't take Spanish in high school, so I thought Diablo was cute. And I thought Diablo sauce was just like, a bonus. I was like, oh, they're going to give me some extra stuff. And I wanted to die. So I don't do spicy food, so Texas has been fun. I can also relate. In week 1, Buck shared about his matching tattoo with his BFF. There's so many layers to that I'd love to unpack with him. His young adult experience, maybe a little tipsy, and I can kind of relate. I too, my first tattoo is 18 years old with my BFF at Panama City Beach. And I was about to leave to go to college for music, so I wanted a music tattoo, and I had $25. However, I will not be showing you a picture of my tattoo, because I can't. And those of you that are familiar with 18-year-olds at Panama City Beach, you can go ahead and picture where you think it might be. It rhymes with ramp camp, okay? Some of you just got that. Thank you. Okay, some of you know what I'm talking about. I have regrets. Some of them are kind of a little more lighthearted than that. I have other ones that are a little weightier, right? That almost like leave a residue in my life. And some of those are things like, I wish there were some things I didn't do, certain behaviors I didn't pick up. Or maybe I ignored wisdom. And looking back, I wish I could have taken some of the advice of people much wiser than me. I wish I had managed my physical health better. I wish I had taken better care of my body. Or maybe it's things like conversations I should have had. Or things like being afraid to take risks, to use my voice, to step up, to try new things. Or managing money poorly. I told first service, my husband amens that one. He's like, yes, that would have been nice earlier in life. And then not forgiving people. And I could go on and on and on about some of the regrets that kind of leave this residue in my life. Now, some of them I've been able to kind of turn a corner. I've been able to heal some relationships. I've been able to take care of some different things in my life. But some of them, they just still leave their mark on my life. Last week, Buck talked about King David and his regrets, and how not only did it leave a significant mark in his own life, it actually kind of filtered down for generations even afterwards, right? Like the choices that he made had a ripple effect. And even some of my regrets will for sure do that. And I feel like if we could have sat with David at the end of his life and said, talk to me about what you wish you could have done differently, what you regret, I'm sure he would have shared that list that Buck talked about last week. And I have a feeling if I could sit with you, I'm not trying to project this on you. I don't want you at that stage of life yet. I'm just saying if we could sit together in those seasons, we would learn a lot about regret. And actually someone did that. A woman named Bronnie Ware was a palliative care worker for many, many years. She sat with people and cared for them during their final stages of life. And now she's committed to being an author and a speaker because she is passionate about sharing what she learned in her years of caring for people as they shared their regrets. As they shared, man, like I've lived this life and I want to share with people what people are saying when they're at the end of it. And I want to look at the things that she discovered. And these are the things that she heard most often, just the top 5. I wish I hadn't worked so hard. I wish I had let myself be happier. I wish I had expressed my feelings. I wish I had been more true to myself. I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. This morning, I just kind of want to dial in on those last 3 and kind of what I think is a thread through those, which is ultimately connection. I wish I had expressed my feelings and I had told someone what I was actually thinking and how I was actually feeling. I wish I had been more true to myself. And we really can only be true to ourselves externally, right? Like, I mean, I can have all that inside me, but I need to be genuine. I need others to see that and engage with that. And I wish I had stayed in touch with my friends. You know, I told people before we moved from Tennessee, I was like, I'm a terrible long-distance friend. I mean, I struggle to be a good, close-to-me friend. But, like, I struggle long distance. And I think I'm going to regret some of the relationships I've let kind of slide by or didn't invest and get intentional with. See, all these last 3 are about connection, community, being known, and knowing others. The gospel writer of John quotes Jesus as saying, "The thief comes to steal and kill and destroy, but I," speaking of Jesus, "have come that they may have life and have it to the full." Other translations say, "and have life abundant," or "have abundant life." And I love that we focus in on that because I think that fullness of life is a huge topic. But to me, what words stand out are may have. I feel like God uses this verse in my life to say, you may have an abundant life, which for me is, it's an option. You have to choose it. You have to want it, and then you have to lean into it, and then you have to pursue it. That if you want fullness of life, which for me means fewer regrets, right? Abundant life equals fewer regrets. And I want to take a look at, if we're saying that being connected and being in community and being known has value, what does that have to do with what Jesus is telling us here? What does that have to do with a full and abundant life? Do we need to be connected? In 1984, there was a study done, and for 20 years, they followed the same 2,000 people, asking them the same question every year. And the question was, how many confidants do you have, or how many people could you go to in crisis? In 1984, the most common answer was 3. In 2004, the most common answer was none. Now, we're a little ways past 2004. Some of you just, that just shocked you. It shocks me every time I think of that. What would we say now? Would we have more connections now? Would we have less? In 2016, isolation tied obesity in the #1 health concern for Americans. Isolation tied obesity. It's not just impacting our spiritual health or our mental health. This is a physical issue for us. We are more isolated than ever. Just last year, a survey was conducted. 67% of Americans say, I feel more isolated than ever. I'm not sure if you can relate to that. But as I talk to people, this is a big deal for us. We are very isolated, even in an age and in a time, we have more access to connection than ever, right? And I think that's part of the problem because social media gives us this false sense of being connected. So researchers have distinguished 2 kinds of connection. There's objective connections and perceived connections. So objective connections would be like what we have right now. I see you, you see me, you don't know me, I don't know you. But we could feel connected. We could get this idea, I show up to church on a Sunday morning, right? So I could feel connected to people because in proximity, I'm physically close to them. But that's just an objective connection. Or a perceived connection, which is very different, which is I perceive you, I know you, you know me. There's something happening in between us that is different than just physically being in the same space. There's something happening that makes that connection real. My best analogy would be like, I can have all the appliances, I can have the outlets, I can have the wires, I can have the cables, but if I have no power running through it, nothing comes on. As Jeremy Edlin and I were talking about that concept, he said, I have a picture that makes me think of. And so he showed me this. Those of you laughing, you probably just had the same panic attack. It's like, oh, that looks terrible. But if I'm being honest, that's kind of how we operate through connections. Like we have 1 million people following our social media. We have 1 million followers. We have 1 million whatever, right? We think people know us and that we are being known, but we don't really even know what's going on. I don't know how anyone could work like this, by the way. But there are people in this room right now that are like, oh, that looks totally fine. I'm very comfortable with that. We can talk afterwards. I need to understand you a little better. If we aren't plugged into the right places, if we don't understand what connection really is and why it really matters, we're going to miss it. And we're going to miss a full and abundant life through community and through connection. Now, I'm going to specifically kind of dial us in on Christian community. And I have a couple of disclaimers. One, because I think some people have approached me and there's some confusion. I don't work here. So I don't have an email, a Northpoint email. I actually have another job. They just give me the privilege of being a part of their teaching team, and I'm so thankful for it. But I say that to you because, no one's paying me to tell you this. I'm just going to tell you because I really believe in it. I'm not getting a paycheck. If you listen and you buy in, I'm not going to get some kind of residual or anything like that. I don't work here. The other thing I want you to know is I wasn't raised in church, so I have not been conditioned to think this way. In fact, I actually was raised in a system that would almost be the opposite, that would actually not be really connected in community, because connection and community brought a lot of pain to my family. So I don't work here, and I'm not conditioned to think this, but community and connection radically transformed my life. And I believe that part of that fullness and that abundance is found in being in relationships and in being known by others. Last week, if you were here, you heard us celebrate an amazing student event called My Life, where hundreds of teenagers gathered right where you are, and I got the opportunity, the privilege of being with my 10 sophomore girls. Some of my girls are right there. Look at you girls. I'm so proud of you listening. Stay awake, okay? Just, Mom, if you could just rib her when she falls asleep. Julie, I watched you fall asleep. They love me. They love me so much. So I had this opportunity to sit for a weekend, and the whole topic the weekend when Matt was teaching, when Jordan was teaching, when Buck was teaching, was encouraging these students to be known. To really be known and to be vulnerable and to be real and to be authentic, and then to look for opportunities to help others be known. And man, guys, I got to tell you, I'm soaking it up. I'm listening, and I'm like, yeah, girls, you need this. You need this in your life. And my sons are also, they have amazing small group leaders that put up with them all weekend too last week. And I'm like, yes, I need my sons to be known. And then God is like, and are you known? And I'm like, well, but I'm old. I don't know that I need it like they do. We do, right? But it gets weirder. Anybody else think adult friendships are super weird? It's super awkward to become friends with someone as an adult. You move to a place, you're like, will you be my friend? This is weird right now. It is so awkward because when you're in school, you have these natural systems and structures that put you in community, right? But as an adult, it feels awkward. But if we believe our teenagers need this, and I think most of us probably do we really think we outgrow the need for connection and community? We don't. We don't outgrow it. I would never look at my small group girls and say, yeah, you're just going to need this for a season. After that, you don't need anybody to know you. Just do everything on your own, be super isolated, exist on an island unto yourself, and you will be healthy. I never say that to them. I'm going to tell them, man, find good friendships. When I'm at your weddings, I want you to have the biggest party because you had healthy community and connections. But I have to do that too. And there is a little bit of a difference. The other reason I want to kind of press into Christian community is because it's different than being a part of a team. Now, teams are great. Maybe you have a great team at work, or you're a part of a sports team. And I think those are very, very valuable. And many elements of connection and community can absolutely kind of feed into that. But it's just a little different when we decide we're going to get vulnerable spiritually. There's a different level of growth and maturity that comes from allowing people into that space of our lives. It's just a little different. But there are reasons we don't want to do this. There are reasons I don't want to do this, and there are reasons you might be hesitant to do it, and that's what we want to look at real quick. I want to look at 5 things that we maybe tell ourselves that kind of keep us from community. The first one, the pandemic. Let me explain that just a little bit. When natural disasters or crisis occurs, we typically naturally come together, right? If there's a hurricane, we all get together, bring the stuff, we take it to stuff in our teams, we're there. If someone has something, in your neighborhood and there's a crisis with your neighbor, you come and you sit with them, right? We come together. The pandemic, by its nature, actually did the opposite. Okay, just naturally, because of what it was and what it required of us, we actually isolated. So when we isolated, then we fell out of the habit of community. And community is a habit. And if any of you had to come back to church after church being closed, you probably felt a little bit of this. I felt just a little bit of this. My kids were like, man, that's great. Now I get to go back to Upstreet and serve. And I'm like, yeah, but I got to watch church in my pajamas. And can I come in my pajamas here? You probably actually could. It'd be totally cool. But the reality is it was hard to kind of reacclimate to getting together. Our small group we met on Zoom for forever, and I got used to that. But we have to come and step back into that connection and that community. So the pandemic might be an issue, or we've fallen out of the habit. Second issue is you're telling yourself, this is great. I just don't need it. In particular, in an area where people move often, right? Like how many people moved to Austin from another state, yeah, right? Like I think a lot of us. And then some of us probably in our head know we might move again. When the next tech hotspot opens up, we're going to have to transfer. We're going to have to do it. Somebody like, no, I'm not doing that again. So, we can all too easy fall into a rhythm of, well, I'm going to move, or I moved here and I'm new, and I don't necessarily need that deep connection. I go to church because it's, I want to do that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to necessarily connect in community because I'm too transient. I don't know how long I'll be here. So I totally get that I don't need it, and I'm kind of okay without it. One of the other things I would ask, though, is like, would you mind if I ask your spouse if you need it? Like, or maybe your kids. Like, I feel like if I ask your kids, they'd be like, you need some friends. Like, really bad, Dad, go get a friend. Mom, please find someone else. I've had my kids say that. Mom, we moved. They were like, go get some friends. Please find someone. I'm like, but you're my friend. No, I'm not. I get it. But if I ask someone close to you, do you think maybe they would say, hey, you know what? I can't keep supporting you like that. I can't be the only person you go to for things. You need other people to lean on in addition to me. There was a study done at UC Berkeley about happiness. They asked this question. They said, if we tell ourselves we are going to be more happy, if we just can manifest our happiness, like, will it actually work? So they wanted to study several thousand people, but they wanted to do it across the globe. So they picked 4 countries. They picked Russia, Japan, Taiwan, and the US. And they conducted this study of, if I tell myself I'm happy, can I actually make myself happier? And so what they found is, over time, studying this process with these 4 different groups of people, is that Russia, Taiwan, and Japan became happier. We did not. We couldn't tell ourselves to be happy. And they were like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we should be super happy. This is America. Like, we should be, like, why can't we manifest this, right? So they decided to dig a little deeper and kind of do some more studies to understand it. And in doing those other studies, they discovered some other stuff. One of the things they did is they showed the same group of people an image of a man speaking to a crowd, something just like this. And they would ask the participants, what is happening? What do you see going on here? Well, the US participants answered, he is speaking, he is dynamic, he is expressive, we're guessing maybe he's a little animated, maybe he's loud. And then they asked the other countries, and they kind of resonated with the same response. They noticed the crowd. Well, he must be making them laugh because they're smiling. Well, they must enjoy what he's saying. They paid their attention to them. They would even notice particular people in the background while that person's sleeping. See, that's happening right now too. You guys staying awake? Then they were like, wow. So let's do this a different way. They got a bunch of kids across those same 4 countries, and they showed them an image of a little girl smiling in a crowd of other children that had sad expressions. And they said to the kids, is this little girl happy or sad? The US participant said, she's happy. All the Eastern countries said, well, she's sad. She's pretending to be happy because the crowd is sad. And let me be clear. I love being raised in a culture that encourages us to pursue individualism. I don't want to have to think or have to go in a different direction. I want to have my own voice and have my own ideas. I love the idea of being in a place where you can literally create your destiny. You can literally pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but there are consequences to that individualism. And if that's true, not that it's a negative, but if it's true, we're going to have to actually get more intentional about connecting and being in community. When we moved here, and this is a picture of my family, it's my beautiful husband, Sal. Guys, that's what Buck says about Jill. No one caught that. No one caught that. When we moved, it was tough. And it was way easier just to kind of become our own little island. And then our boys found Northpoint, so we landed here, and we got in a community group because we knew we needed this. But honestly, there were some things that we didn't want about it, right? Like, oh, it's going to take time. There's going to be some things. But about 3 or 4 months after we got into community group, my husband's mother died. And we had walked with so many families through that process, but we had not gone through it yet. And so other men in our community, we had a couples group, came alongside my husband. And they're like, I lost my mom a year ago. And we did life together. And not only did they just care for us, I mean, they gave us meals, they did all that good stuff, but they got it. They let us show up however we needed to show up that week. And they just kept walking with us. And I had great support at work, and so did my husband, but it was different. It was different. I know we think we don't need it, but I think we benefit from it. There's a proverb that says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. If you insist on isolating and being an island unto yourself, you might be missing out on transformation, on that fullness of life that Jesus talks about. Now, there is a reality that when iron sharpens iron, sparks fly, literally. There is a reason that the author didn't say, as feather sharpens feather. Nothing happens. And we need to be putting ourselves in spaces where we are stretched and challenged and we grow. And that means we need to have people with different experiences. Maybe we have some experiences in common, but they have different ideas, or they navigated it differently, or they have different thoughts. I know in our community group, we still talk so much about parenting. And they're like, what about this? They're like, have you tried this? Have you thought about this? Because we're trying to sharpen each other. We need to sharpen each other. My boys are in small groups and inside out. Their small group leaders, sharpen them. Their small group participants, their friends, sharpen them. There's something that happens there that really you can't get anywhere else. Also, your kids need to see you in community. Again, you want that idea of like the kids grow up to have healthy friendships and vibrant marriages and all this kind of stuff. They got to see it from us first. They need to see you laughing with people, crying with people, caring for people, allowing people to care for you. And then maybe someone just needs your story. Maybe you don't need them, but they need you. Someone needs to hear what you're going through. You know, we had an amazing host home for our My Life experience for my small group, but I just sat up one night talking to the mom that was our host home, and she was just talking about her sons, and I was talking about my sons. I just needed to hear what she said. Maybe someone needs to hear where you are or what you've been through. The other reason that we don't get in the community is because we think we don't have time. And honestly, we're busy, and I get it. I can binge watch a show. I've watched all of Ted Lasso, would watch it again. I can have a TikTok scroll session. Yep, I know. I know we feel like we don't have time, but I'm not sure we can afford not to make time. So in Tennessee, and we have a financial advisor. It's been a life changer for our marriage. And he's awesome. He also went to the church where I served for a long time, so we were friends. He also happened to be a workout partner with us in the mornings. My husband and I would go work out with him and a group of other people. He was a talkative workout partner. I'm not a talkative workout partner. Don't tell me to jump higher. Don't tell me I can do it. Leave me alone. And he just couldn't because he had a lot of energy and stuff. But every time I would complain, which was, semi-daily, he would say, hey, you can't afford not to work out. I see your money. And you're either going to invest your retirement money in taking care of your health that you didn't take care of now, or you're going to pay for it now by doing something you don't enjoy doing necessarily. And he was being kind of lighthearted, but it's really kind of true, right? Like he was being honest. And I would kind of challenge us the same thing with community. What if you can't afford not to? No, it's hard to make time to show up every week for a group or to show up every week, even here. I get it. I totally get it. But what if we can't afford not to? The other issue that keeps coming up, right, is maybe you've been there and you've done that and you didn't have the best experience. Maybe you were hurt by community and you have a community wound or a community trauma, and that's very real. You know, when I worked at my church, I would sit down at the end of the stage on a Sunday morning, and I remember this one time this woman came up to me and she said, "I'm so glad to be here. So thankful to be here." And she began to tell me the church that she came from and what they had done to hurt her. And she was like, "And so I'm just so glad to be here." And I felt like I needed to just get it out up front. I said, "I need you to know I will hurt you. I will forget something." I forgot someone in my small group's birthday yesterday. I was like devastated by it. I was like, man, I will not return an email. I will not return a call because I will mess up. So if you came from over there because over there hurt you, I totally get that. And I hate that that happened to you. And I don't want that to happen to you here, but I'm pretty human. So we might have that same situation over here because we've got a lot of humans in the building. And humans mess up. When I was pregnant with Kyle, one of my favorite foods, it was sweet and sour chicken. I don't know why. And then about, 7 months into my pregnancy, Kyle didn't like sweet and sour chicken. And he decided to make that known by having me vomit all over the place. It was bad. It was bad. So for months, probably even years, honestly, I could not eat sweet and sour chicken without my stomach feeling all that again. But I didn't stop eating Chinese food. And when we approach our hurts from past community experiences like that, we're missing out on other things. I can now eat sweet and sour chicken. I understand we get hurt. And that doesn't make, when someone wrongs you, that doesn't make it right just because it happened. I'm not saying that. I'm saying you can't give up on all of it because you had a bad experience. And lastly, one of the reasons I think we stay away from community is because we have this mindset, yeah, but if you really knew me, I really get that. I feel like I live in this space where I'm either not enough or I'm too much. And if I just figure out how to just show up, you're going to think I'm not enough or I'm too much too. I just want to share with you, people can handle more than you think. Every Wednesday, I get the opportunity to sit with a group of women, and we share a story every week. And I'm just so amazed at these women, but you can hear how hesitant we are to be real sometimes, right? Because it's like, oh, but if I really tell you what I did, you're going to look at me the way women look at women when they've done that. And I get it. But I think people can handle, honestly, I feel like if I sat down with any of you and really told you all my stuff, laid it all out there, you would probably be fine. You might actually relate to some of it. People can handle more than you think. If part of fullness of life is being connected to community, and if we can have fewer regrets, get more of that may have life, and experience that fullness Jesus is talking about, we can't afford to not get connected. Now, I could literally spend all day trying to convince you the value of connection and community, but to be honest, stories are way better. So I want us to listen to one.
I'm Tim Kennedy, and I don't know what I do. I think in the core, in the center, is the reason that God put me on this earth to preserve and protect human life, and then all the things that I do around it. I'm in grad school, and I'm watching an American lean out of a building, look at a concrete jungle below them, and decide which is the better of two options, to burn alive or to jump to their death. And I saw embodiment of evil, and I was like, I can't not do something about it. So, enlisting on 9/11 to become a Green Beret to go and find the people that would do that. That has been the reoccurring theme in my life. So I'm a Special Forces sniper, I'm a Green Beret, I'm a Master Sergeant, former firefighter, EMT, police officer, entrepreneur, small business owner, defensive tactics instructor, UFC fighter, television host, author. All of those things, when you boil them down to what's at the core, it's to protect people that can't protect themselves. My perception of God growing up in an amazing Christian home with a loving, caring father and a loving, caring mother, intimately knowing that God was real and that he could change people's lives and that he could save people. At 15, I lost one of my best friends in a car crash. A year later, I'm in a motorcycle accident, and I'm losing the patriarch of our family, my grandpa, World War II veteran, and like all of the things that like were the cornerstones of my life were just like being eroded. The questions that you have as a developing adult couldn't be answered, and I was seeing them in a pace that I couldn't reconcile with my own beliefs. Like how can a loving God exist in a world where these bad things are happening? And that was like the beginning of a litany of things that ultimately led a life without Christ. From 15 to almost 40, I lived a life completely adjacent from all things that are Christian. Fought professionally for the UFC. That's ring girls and children out of wedlock and thinking I got AIDS. Me at 22, standing on a beach in California, naked, starting to swim west into the fog. Not trying to kill myself, but with no other answer or no other solution to a problem of what do I do? I think I might be dying of AIDS, and I have 2 women pregnant. Neither of them are the woman that I'm with that also might be pregnant. That is not the low point of my life. War, like the worst things that humans can do to each other it happens at war. I'm being firsthand in that. 30-something trips overseas for the military. I had done and tried, I think, everything that a human can have tried. A marriage that isn't going to exist in a month or two. Always knowing what the real answer is, but being so stubborn and so stupid to go to it, which is just to go back to Christ. And I was like, nope, I'm going to just keep searching. And then loving someone, my wife, enough to swallow my pride and go back to the thing that will fix it all. So walked into Northpoint, into a small group with my wife to see if we could save our marriage and our family. People have always been a hard thing with me because a lot of people have wanted stuff from us. Like they wanted to be close so they could get tickets to fights. They wanted to be close so that they could have introductions to somebody that could help them with their business. So I've kept people at a lot of distances. But the brotherhood within the military and in every one of my occupations, my whole entire life, there has been this powerful community. But that doesn't fill all of the elements of community. When it's hard to talk to a teammate about how you're struggling at home, how you are questioning the way that you're being a father, how you're doubting the way that you're being a husband. So in that small group was magic. There was transparency, there was truth, there was arguing, there was fun, there was laughter, there was joy, there was sadness, there was everything that you need in a community, but most of all, there were peers with the same struggles. Like-minded people with similar values, hoping for the same thing, which is grace. After going to Marriage Matters, going on to the LDG group and being with accountability brothers, like men that you can talk to about everything and laugh and share memes with, and then sometimes get chastised when you share a meme that maybe you shouldn't share to a church group, But that's the point, it's this constant adjustment of imperfections and realizing that no one there is perfect. My faith has gotten more real, and that is weird because I still have so many questions. I still have so many things that I want answers to that I don't know when I'm going to get those answers. It's like I'm just going to keep pressing. And as a very aggressive person, I think God isn't one that can be pressured. So he's just doing what he does, which is giving me the answers that he thinks are appropriate at the times that he thinks that they're supposed to be given. I hope that my family will see a God-fearing man that will risk exposure, that transparency that we're so scared to let everybody see in, that they'll see a man that is fearless to be exposed in front of Christ with all of his failures, so they know they can do the same thing. And all of those questions that they know that I don't have those answers yet, and they may not have their answers yet either, but that constant, relentless pursuit of them is what our walk will be. The right community is so important. Like, you cannot do this alone. You cannot triumph all of the traps and all of the failures that are in front of you by yourself. Like, you can't do it. Christ has put around us people to do that with, because there's somebody sitting right next to you at church that will absolutely pick up your hand and stand with you in that moment. Sometimes it takes a little bit of courage. Sometimes it just takes a choice. But ultimately, you just got to know you can't do it by yourself. And there's people that are there to do it with you.
I love when Tim talks about, I think it's like 25 years. He said he knew all along the answer. He knew that Jesus was the one that provided the may have full and abundant life. And we happen to believe that part of the way that God does that is through community and connection, so that your may have has fewer regrets because you were actually known. Now, again, I don't work here, so I thought I'd bring out someone who does to talk to us a little bit about how we can be connected and in community. That way, if anything is wrong, it's your fault.
Yes. Thank you, Jen. My pack is on again. Check. Maybe not. Check. There we go. Anyways, yes, thank you for the reminder on connection. I just want to add, because of my role here, I've had the privilege to be on the other side of the camera when we film these stories, asking individuals these questions. And usually we have a conversation that's about 45 minutes to an hour, and it gets cut down. What I wish I could share is with all of you to kind of be in the editing room to see everything else that is said in people's stories, hundreds of stories now between baptism videos and community groups and so many stories. I wish you could hear just how truly impactful community is for all of these individuals. I mean, it really is a game changer in people's lives, and it's why we take the time out on a Sunday a couple times a year to talk about it and give an opportunity for people to get into community. And so we want to do that right now. You're going to notice there are QR codes in front of you on every single seat, because we wanted to give you the opportunity, every single person, to take a step into community. Front row, it's underneath your seat if you want to check there. And you can scan that QR code, or you can scan the QR code that's going to pop up on the screen on the side, or you can even text no regrets to 97000 and get, it's all going to take you to the same place. It's going to take you to a form. And this form is basically going to ask you a couple of questions. We're not going to spam you, and we're not going to chase you down, I promise. All of this is you saying, hey, I'm interested. I just want a little bit more information. You're not committing to anything. But when you fill out this form, it's going to ask you a few questions that's going to allow us to essentially just place you in a group that is best for your life and your season. And so I actually want to pause for a minute. We're going to play some music and just give you the opportunity to fill out that form, and then I'll answer a couple of questions, and we will get out of here. So we'll go ahead and play that music right now.
Interesting.
So I want to answer a couple of questions, and
I didn't want to ask just so that they are aware.
Yeah.
Like, so they do this, they fill this out. What's going to happen next?
Yep. So one of the things you're going to notice on there is it might talk about what type of community group you want to be in, and there are a lot of different community groups. I just want to kind of preview a few of them. One is Starting Point. Starting Point is specifically for people who are returning to church for the first time in a long time. Maybe it's your first time trying out church ever. You didn't grow up in church, or even for people who are just exploring Christianity and
Lots
have
of
questions.
They can ask anything in this space.
Yep, anything in that space. Starting Point is a great group for you. There's also long-term groups for men and women and couples and even college-age adults as well. And not only that, there's short-term groups specific to transition seasons in life, unique situations in your family. There's all sorts of groups because we have really wanted to try our best to meet the needs of the community here at Northpoint.
So they do all this, then they're going to hear from you?
No, you're not going to hear from me. No, our connection team is going to reach out to you. So basically, you just sit tight, and our connection team is going to reach out to you, and they're going to help you get connected to the best group possible.
And if someone has any questions from this whole process, because I've been a new person, so I know there might be a question, where do they go and who do they talk to?
Yep, so if you're here in person, you can actually stop by the kiosk, the group's kiosk. Our connection team is there, and they can answer any questions you have. If you're watching online, you can go to mpaustin.com, and we put the groups link on our homepage, so you can click on that, find answers to your questions, and you can also just contact the groups team directly from there too.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Guys, I just want to really encourage you to consider getting connected, and I think that the church has done a great job of setting up a way in which it is easy for you to find community, and they are open to just helping you plug in. I do want to pray for us and close out our time, if that's okay. Let's pray. Father, I believe that you have come that we may have life and have it to the full, but it is a choice. And I believe that part of that is being connected, but there are reasons we struggle to be connected. So each of us probably has a different thought in our head, and I'm just so thankful that you can meet each of us exactly where we are so that we can lean into and step into that abundant life that you give us the option for. And part of that is through community. So if anybody's in here and thinking, I know I need to, or maybe I need to make time, but God, that you would just speak so clearly and you would filter us into the right pockets and in the right communities. And we just step back and look for you to take over and do the work that you do through these groups. Amen.
Thanks for being here, y'all.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.